Hi there in Hale State. Welcome to our fourth edition of the virtual Road Dogs Tour. We are glad to have you with us on Zoom or however you're watching this, YouTube, via one of our Twitter feeds online, Instagram, wherever you may be with us tonight. We're glad to have you. We certainly wish that we were in person visiting with you, but circumstances being what they are, we're making the best of it. And again, look forward to seeing all of you again in person very, very soon, and hope that you are safe and well wherever you may be. We've got another great panel of guests lined up. This will be our final week where we have head coaches with us, and we're glad to have Ginger Brown-Lim, who's the head coach of our women's golf team, Chris Lamonis, who's the head coach of the baseball program at Mississippi State, and Matt Roberts is with us representing men's tennis today. Thank all of you for taking some time out of your schedules to join us. And I think where we want to start is kind of the same way we have in the first three rounds of our virtual Road Dogs Tour. And that's been the adjustment from being in a competitive environment like all of you were in the spring when COVID-19 hit us, and what you've been doing to get ready for a return to competition whenever that may be, hopefully here in the course of the next month. So, Ginger, let me start with you because your team is in the middle of a season. You're playing very well, obviously. You've got kids from all over who are playing for you. What was it like when you got the news that all of a sudden we got to shut everything down?
It was awful. We were in the middle of a practice round after we had just won a tournament in Arizona. We were playing again in Arizona, and we were like on number 13. And I had been talking to compliance a little bit, and they said at first, we're going to let you decide whether you want to stay or not. So that, of course we're going to stay. We play a few more holes. I don't mention it to the team yet, and get the call that, no, in fact, we need to wrap this up. We've got you on an 8:00 flight. To work as hard as they did, it was extreme. I think we were all in shock for a few hours, and I kind of just postponed addressing anything until we got to the hotel, repacked, got to the airport, and then in the airport kind of sat down with everybody and tried to start the healing process of what was taken from us. They had worked so hard, and I don't think for a couple of days they were able to, or I was able to process really what had arrived with the COVID. So for us to be in the position of, 21 in the nation, just broke all kinds of records. It was tough. It was tough to process for them, and certainly felt like it was stolen from us as well as coaches, that we were really coming back in the spring with a vengeance and had worked so hard. So really tough being an outside sport and kind of ascending like we did and get it to take all that away.
I want to get into the weeds a little bit on this because you brought up when you decided to tell your team. And this is something that is kind of unheard of. I mean, there's no page in the How to Be a Head Coach textbook that tells you how you're going to deal with a situation that at that point, and even today, is fluctuating moment to moment or now day to day. So how do you manage that internally as a head coach to the point where you don't want to alarm your student athletes, and then making that decision that now's the time we've got to let everybody know what's going on?
It's a little bit of a blur for me, actually. Even having been prepared for an hour or so, hour and a half of on the phone, I think that you pull them together and kind of discuss that it was a decision made on the best interest of their health and safety, and that we still had to get on a plane and go home, and to be able to make plans and adjust from that moment, and finish school as well. And we didn't know what it would look like, but I can tell you that I just shifted gears into a mindset of, we have laid an unbelievable groundwork of championship performance. We had done the work with our mental game. We had done the work with our actual physical and technical games, and that we had established or reestablished, for the most part, a championship contender as a program, and that they had to have pride that at least if we finished with a win. We finished with breaking 2 scoring records in the NCAA. We finished with multiple records broken as a program. And if you got to go out, if it's on, we talk a lot about, control what you can control. And this is the epitome of that moment, because we had absolutely no control. This was given to us. We had to deal with it. They're incredibly strong young women, and we talk about really owning what is within your control, and this was the epitome of that. So I had to lead the best I knew how with that concept, and that we had done everything right, that we had really risen to the top, and that's how you have to know that you've established all of these things. We were dealt what we were dealt, and that when we do get to tee it up in August or September or whenever that might be, that we have, as a program, reestablished ourselves as a championship contender.
Chris, I feel like that you were in a similar spot to Ginger with your team, in that you had just beaten the number 2 ranked team in the country twice down in Biloxi. You were playing with a lot of new faces that were having to contribute in different ways, and it felt like things were trending upward. You guys maybe were starting to pull it all together chemistry-wise and what you wanted to do, and then all of a sudden you get the call that says, hey, it's over. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was surreal. I mean, we were in you're in a packed house, standing room only stadium for 2 nights. We sweep Texas Tech, which we needed at that point. We needed that validation that, hey, we're a top 10 team and we can play with anybody. The game's over. We're shaking hands, and Greg Campbell walks up to me and he goes, hey, a lot of stuff has happened in the last 4 hours since you put your cell phone up. And that's when it hit us. And we had to shake hands and say goodbye to our fans. And then we went inside, actually in the clubhouse there in Biloxi, and the guys showered, and then we had to have a team meeting and talked about what happened. And those next couple of days were a blur. I mean, just, one of my biggest regrets is I sent my team out and we really didn't have that end of the year nice meeting you usually have. It's just, man, we were just concerned about their safety and so many unanswered questions at that point. It was a tough time, but yeah, as high as you could be, and then about as low as you could be in about a 5-minute conversation with Greg there. And it's been tough on our guys.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for the 3 coaches that are here. All of you have spring seasons, and understandably, tennis has individual in the fall, just like golf has a fall season. But you still kind of had this carrot, it felt like, for a little while, Chris, dangling out in front of everybody that, okay, we're going to take a measured approach from the NCAA perspective of let's see what happens. And then they come through and say, okay, all spring sports championships are canceled. And it still felt like there was enough distance maybe between that date and when those championships, College World Series in your case, were supposed to take place, that maybe we could have waited this out. Do you feel like ultimately making that decision at that point was the right thing for everybody involved?
Well, I think so. I mean, if you look back, everybody is canceled. That was the biggest thing that Greg hit me with that night is, hey, the NBA canceled. And I was like, uh-oh, that ain't good. And in our world, we came back the next day and they said, all right, you're going to have to play Arkansas without fans. And we felt like that was so unfair because we had to play at their place with 10,000 fans a year before. And right now, I tell you what, we'd all take that if we could do that, is play each other in an empty stadium. I think it was the right move. I think as we look back, that was probably the best move that we could make. Is it wasn't easy to hear because every day we'd hear a little bit more, this is canceled or the World Series was canceled. Once we got that one, it was really tough on the guys, especially when you've been to the World Series 2 years in a row. You got a top 10 team. You don't want that streak to end there, but it's just something that was out of our control.
Matt, what was it like from the men's tennis perspective? Again, you're in the middle of your season, and you've got some guys that are in new roles in your lineup too. And again, it felt like everybody might have been headed in the right direction finally. What was all this like for you?
Yeah, for us, it's a little different than the years past. Ginger was, having a season that, we've had in the last couple of years. So I can understand how she was feeling. It's really hard when you're positioning yourself to play for a championship and then it's just taken away from you, kind of like softball at Mississippi State had a really good run going, in baseball. But for us, it was, we just played Georgia really close at Georgia. We had chances to win the doubles point, and we had some really good chances down 4 through 6 to win all 3 of those courts. And then we just needed one of the top 3. And Georgia at the time was top 10. They beat Ohio State, who was 3 in the country the weekend before. So we lost that match, but we came back home like, all right, we got A&M, LSU, then Florida, South Carolina at home. Let's get to work. And we were about to play A&M, and the head coach from A&M came over to me and he said, I think we got to hit the road. I said, because he had word before I did about what was going on. And they got on the bus and they went home. And once they got home safely, it's just been amazing to see how they've really made the most of their situations. A lot of our guys have been playing the best tennis of their life now, have beaten some guys that they never thought they could beat. So we've just tried to turn this into a positive, deal with this adversity the best way you can, control what you can control. And it's been fun to see their growth and independent development process. So we're just excited to get them back to campus somehow and continue that process with them.
Daryl Greenen was on with us a couple weeks ago, and he shared a similar story to yours. And your 2 programs in tennis, track and field, probably, I would say those 3 are dealing with international student athletes more maybe than just about any other program in the department. And in the time that's passed from when everybody kind of went their separate ways to go shelter in place, what's the communication process been like for you to keep track of all of your guys and also to talk with them to find out how they're continuing to improve and play some of the best tennis of their lives?
Yeah, well, the first thing was we got to figure out what the Zoom is. I'm still struggling with the Zoom, man. I mean, I would have these meetings set up with my team, and they'd say, Coach, we're waiting for you to let us in. And, I think I got it down a little bit now, but just it's pushed us in a lot of areas. We're FaceTiming a lot. We're Zooming a lot. We have involved in some areas because of this pandemic, I think worldwide. But for us, we are just messaging them a lot. We have a lot of group messages on Facebook, WhatsApp. So we're just trying to communicate with them every few days. And then, for some of our guys, like, it's not that hard to see the results. One of our guys is on the tennis channel. He was playing an exhibition series on the tennis channel, and he beat a former #1 player in college that played at USC. And so it was just crazy for us to be able to watch him on the tennis channel while we were, at home. And so we're just staying in touch with them with a lot of the Facebook group messages and Zoom.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
We're probably all very thankful for what we have learned about technology through this pandemic, including Zoom, and more of us probably more reliant on that, FaceTime and Microsoft Teams or WebEx or whatever the software of choice is, but it's allowed us to communicate. What I'd like to ask all 3 of you here, starting with Ginger, is outside maybe of technology, what's something that you've learned in the last 4 months that you didn't know going into this that's helped you be better at your job?
Great question. Fortunately, I did know how to use Zoom, so I was a little bit ahead on that, but not commonly the case with technology and me. I took advantage of the time, and we use a putting system that analyzes 27 different things or components of your putting stroke. It's called Sandputt Lab. And I went online and got certified in level 1 and 2 of Sandputt Lab training. So in addition to kind of learning more technical skills and taking advantage of sort of being bored stiff, spring, as you two know, we don't stop. You know, it's 16, 18-hour days, and you live on it, you thrive on it, and you see them growing, and you watch them learning and seeing that they can do whatever you challenge them to rise to take care of. But it's a little bit of withdrawals. But in addition to some leadership things and to make sure that I'm preparing myself to be a better communicator, to be a better leader, just really taking advantage of the time and doing as much as education-wise as I can during this time.
Chris, what about you? What's something you've learned outside of the technology that's helped you improve as a coach during this time?
Well, it's been hard because most of ours has been, you know, our recruiting has gone full speed, you know, online. So ours has been a lot more, I mean, we spend a lot of time watching games, and you know, it's crazy out there in the world that we're in. You have, and our kids are playing ball everywhere. The kids in our program, but also recruits. So we've signed kids over the computer, you know, over this time frame, and ours has been. And I know you say other than technology, but ours has been in that world so heavy because how we're communicating with kids and talking to kids and selling our program has been how to be able to do it virtually and with our coaches. And it's been so much time, you know, on the computer. But really where I've gained during this time, Ginger, you'll be proud, but I'm going to need help. I've cut about 15 strokes off my game. So I shot an 81 yesterday. That's my highest ever. So I was
kidding?
excited. So Matt's seen my swing too, so he could attest that it's had to come a long way probably.
But Chris is at 9 or 18 holes, man. I'm just asking.
18.
I'm just kidding. I know,
believe me. But
good
you
job.
know, it's hard. Like Ginger said it, like for us, we never stop. It's 100 hours a week. You're on call. You know, people joke me I never turn my phone off at night because you never know when you're going to get a phone call from somebody, you know, so it never stops in our world. And then all of a sudden our world stopped. And how do you spend that time? And a lot of it's been, for us, it's been roster is what we had to take care of and deal with. But outside of that, you know, how do you spend your time? And it's been on the golf course. So, but I need that new putting system Ginger has that maybe help me out a little bit. Matt doesn't need it. He's a lot better than I am.
Y'all come on. We'll have a staff development day and take care of that.
So
I don't want to get too far down the road here, but while I'm thinking of it, I got to ask this question. Number one, Chris, you get a break on the swing because every baseball player I've ever talked to says the worst thing you can do in season if you play baseball is go play golf because the swings are drastically different. So what kind of adjustment from hitting the fungo, from being out there in the cages when you're out working with the guys, how big of an adjustment is it to go out there and try to hit that ball off the tee or out of the fairway, hopefully?
It's really tough, and it was really tough on me. I've been a bad golfer my whole life, but I always blamed it on I didn't play enough. Our group, because when we got quarantined, all you could kind of do is go out and we'd walk the course. We walked the state course every morning, and all my coaches, you know, most of my coaches, you know, play, and so we go out there and play and just to spend time. And but we've all gotten better. But I got lessons, to be honest with you. I had to get lessons, so and I had to change my swing. So that's kind of what helped me become a little more consistent. But a lot of it, I mean, I play almost every day right now in the morning or late at night, and then work the other half of the day just to fill time. So, but it isn't easy for baseball guys, and we're a little stressful too. So we don't handle I hear all the quote Ginger saying control what you like. We don't do a good job with that. Every once, you know, you'll see a club get slammed or whatever in our group, but we enjoy it, and it's helped spend the time. And maybe one of the things I think our staff has gotten closer during this time. Our families have gotten closer, our staff, because we've had to spend more time together. My wife, not too happy about it because they like it when I'm gone all the time. I'm home too much right now for my family. So
I'm going to marry two concepts here. Keep the club head in the strike zone as long as possible. There you go. I think that can put baseball swing and golf swing together. Matt, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but while I was thinking of the golf question, I had to ask. Now, tell me this. Tennis swing to golf swing. Is that an adjustment for you because you're talking about staying more on a level plane or hitting down at the ball to create
it's an adjustment? And I kind of had a homegrown swing, and my uncle taught me how to hold the club, luckily. But then from there, I've just had to learn on my own. But, I'm definitely very right-hand dominant, like a forehand in tennis. I barely take the club back, and I just kind of use my right hand. But yeah, I've played a lot of golf too this year. It's been fun. The Starkville Country Club's an amazing place, and so I really enjoyed that opportunity to play out there. But yeah, I mean, other than golf and a lot of house projects, I've used this time to just figure out what our next steps are with integrating the indoor tennis facility into our program. How can we get the fans and the community involved? How can we evolve as a program to not just come watch the team play, but how can we, incorporate the community and the tennis fans with this new indoor facility? And so the ITA, our governing body, has had some really good webinars and podcasts that have looped in some coaches that do a really good job across the country, creating a buzz about tennis. So I've learned a lot about that. And so I'm really excited to implement those strategies for our program. And the indoor facility will be done at the end of this summer. So that's really exciting. And just trying to come out of this better, that's what we tell our guys. You just got to take this opportunity to evolve and push yourself in other ways. And that may be a house project, making a French drain or something, So we're just trying to get better every day.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the indoor facility, and I want to talk to the three of you specifically about facilities, because I think when the indoor facility for tennis is finally finished up, it's going to be one of the best in the league and certainly in the country. Baseball clearly has, or I would say, the best ballpark in college baseball. And Ginger gets to use a top-notch facility over at Mossy Oak, where our golf teams are headquartered in West Point. So, Matt, let me stay with you. How big of a game changer is this indoor facility for tennis at Mississippi State?
Yeah, it's a huge step for our program so that we can bring in top 10 opponents and guarantee them an indoor match before we go to national indoors. Before, we were playing 30, 40, 50s in the country, and playing outdoors in January, February, and now we can lock in a TCU that's top 10, and we can do a home and home with them, which will prepare us for the national indoor tournament. We now have an indoor and an outdoor season, and I think that's huge for a program that if you want to be contending for championships, you need to have those two parts of your season. And so now we're able to, lock in these matches, and also it helps with recruiting, helps with events that you want to do for your fans. It's a huge step for us. And a lot of it has to do with John Cohen and our administration and just how much they believe in us. And that's why I love it here, because it's like a family, but we work really well together, and we've been able to raise the money and make this a reality.
Yeah, I'll say this for John, and a lot of you know John as a former baseball coach, and clearly he loves the sport, but you might be shocked to know how much John Cohen loves tennis. You really might be if you don't know John at all, because you'll find him there during the outdoor season a lot, watching those games at Pitts, matches at Pitts, and he loves all the sports equally, don't get me wrong, but that one was something I didn't even know, and I've known John for a long time. Yeah. I didn't know that he was such a big tennis fan.
One day we were out there squeegeeing the courts, and I looked down the court, and I see a white bucket hat, and that's John Cohen out there drying the courts, and he didn't want anybody to know he was out there. He just wanted to help, and he wanted to see that match, get in that day. And yeah, it's really cool getting to work for John.
Bucket hat and Bluetooth earphones. Those are trademarks of John Cohen. And again, things I never saw until I saw John Cohen, the administrator. I knew John Cohen, the baseball coach, pretty good. Ginger, how long has golf been out at Mossy Oak?
Mossy Oak is a relatively new golf course. So we've been blessed with Old Waverly since its inception. Back in the late 80s when it was built, the Mississippi State women's golf programs and men's programs had playing opportunities there for sure. But when we opened this practice facility about 5 years ago maybe now, I'm getting old, it's when it really pushed us to another level of opportunity to get better. with the indoor hitting bays that we don't really need for winter. But if there's a time we need to get inside and hit into nets and not be concerned about anything other than the task at hand, other than ball flight, we can really get what we need done. To have 2 top 60 courses in the United States and a $3 million practice facility in between them, it's an unbelievable gem in the middle of rural Mississippi. So, just looping in what Matt had to say about our family environment, I've been here 10 years. I love it. It fits our family. It's just an unbelievable opportunity for us to get better. And between Dr. Keenum and at that time Scott Strickland coming together and making this a reality, and kind of piggybacking on the fact that we're building Mossy Oak and the 2 different styles of golf course, which makes a total of 4. So between Starkville Country Club and Mossy Oak and Old Waverly, and then our own Mississippi State golf course, which is unbelievably convenient, and the support there is unreal. It is a family, and that is the only opportunity that we have to exercise all of the necessary aspects of being a championship program, is to have these different 4 courses to play.
From a recruiting standpoint, though, to be able to go into a home, or in this case, maybe even to get on a Zoom call or something with a potential student athlete now, and not only talk about the great practice facility, but say, hey, you get to come and play a great link style course in Mossy Oak. You get to go and play on a course like Old Waverly that has hosted LPGA events and PGA events. What kind of game changer is that when you're talking to somebody about this is a regular thing for you if you come here?
It doesn't get better. Just the ability for us to, anybody can hit balls on a driving range, anybody can practice putting on a putting green, but you have to go and practice your task. You have to go and practice those skills on the course and practice scoring. So to be tested in all of these different ways, from a coaching perspective, playing Mossy Oak is link style. So you've got the wind factor, you've got hard and fast surfaces, you've got a lot of different shots that you've got to have in your bag to be able to capitalize on that design. And if you don't, then we'll play it a lot and practice those skills. And then again, Waverly across the street, it's more tree line, deep bunkers, a little bit different turf, a little bit different height of the grasses. So you've got to have a completely different skill set. So me as a coach, preparing them on 2 completely different facilities prepares them to play any golf course that we would tee it up on. Certainly national championship desert golf, it's a little bit hard and fast too. So we might lean toward Mossy Oak a little bit more, but when we recruit, it's the gem. Nobody can offer what we can in terms of facilities.
Chris, I'm sure you feel that way about Dudy Noble Field too. If you appreciate the game of baseball at all and you walk inside the gates, it's hard not to be awestruck at what you guys get to work in every day. When you bring potential student athletes in and show them this ballpark, how much does that help you seal the deal with people?
Well, the good thing is all the kids know about it now. And they in their world, we get people that come through Starkville all the time. Hey, we just want to come by and see the facility. We just wanted to, I got an email this morning from a family. Hey, can we just come in and get a tour? Like, it's a very special place. And there are great ballparks all across the SEC in the country. They're really nice. Everybody's building something nice. Ours is a great ballpark, but I always talk about our fan experience and atmosphere takes us to a different level than everybody else. And right now in recruiting, we talk about baseball and the atmosphere, I tell them, all right, YouTube, Mississippi State versus Stanford game 2, and you pick up a clip and they get to see, because the ballpark's one thing, but the atmosphere that's created, the game day experience at our place, so many of these places that are getting built are pretty sterile. And I think that's where you saw that a former baseball coach had some design pieces in there, and John had certain ideas that he wanted for that ballpark. And I know it was different than the old ballpark, but anybody who comes now just raves about the atmosphere. So it definitely is a big deal, and getting it into recruits and letting them see it. But It's awesome for our kids too.
What's your favorite moment so far in that ballpark?
It was that ninth inning against Stanford, I think. And I always go back and I say it started about the sixth inning when I had to take the ball away from Peyton Plumlee and he wanted to punch me. Watching our fans give him a standing ovation, getting to that ninth inning, we couldn't have scripted that. If we'd have wrote that Jake Mangum was going to lead off the ninth in the new ballpark and that Elijah McNamee was, going to hit the home run to kind of give us a separator. And then Cole Gordon, who was such a special player here, had the opportunity to strike out the side in the ninth. I mean, just that ninth inning was scripted. And so that was a pretty special thing. Even though we've had some great nights there, to me, that's the one that sits out right now.
For every moment, for every memory, from that first car to your first home to your first child and all the highs and lows that tomorrow might bring. For everything that matters most to you and your family, there's someone right around the corner dedicated to helping you protect what you love. Your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team.
Let's kind of look at the teams that you have, and we all touched on this early in the program, but Ginger, you talked about the athletes you have coming back and where you were in terms of upward trajectory when the season had to be shut down. And I read yesterday that you've got a student athlete who just shared the title at the Western Am. I mean, so how confident are you in what you've got coming back, and when everybody gets this thing going, that you're going to be able to continue that upward climb?
Golf is one of those things that as soon as they are hosting tournaments, our girls are in them. They miss the competition desperately, and obviously they've been working on their game because they have nothing else to do. So we were blessed by having the sport. You can play by yourself. You can practice by yourself. So their skills have very much stayed sharp. So as soon as they were able to tee it up in events, they teed it up. But we've got a transfer coming in from UTEP, and she's ranked 250 in the world as well. So adding her, we've got a young woman that just got her visa from Thailand, who is a part of the Thailand national team, ranked probably in the top 300 in the world. So, coupling those two young women with Clara Moyano, who's been a staple of ours for 3 years, she's decided to come back to get that extra year back. Ashley Gillum from Tennessee, our freshman that just was All-American, All-SEC, she's back with a vengeance. So needless to say, this golf coach is very, very excited about where we're going.
Matt, same thing with men's tennis. You talked about Florian Broska a little bit earlier and what he's been doing in playing in tournaments. How do you feel about those guys you've got coming back and being able to continue to get you back to where you were a season ago?
Right. Yeah. So, last year we had 5 freshmen out of 9. So we had a very team, and that was a great challenge for me. Really cool to see their growth. But yeah, moving forward, all of our guys wanted their year back. That was the first thing they said to me is, "Can I have my year back?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we're going to still be young, but we're also going to get Giovanni, our senior that played in Iraq. He'll come back for the spring semester, so he'll stay in Italy. He'll play the whole fall and come back for the spring. And then Broska will play probably 2 again, and he's probably playing at a level where he could play 1 and be a top player in the country. Then we have a freshman from Bosnia who I think is going to be one of the best freshmen in the country. He was about 150 in the world in juniors, and he's already beating guys top 500. And then we're going to have a really deep 4 through 6. We have a Spanish guy that was a freshman, Alberto, and he's going to be able to be a freshman again. And he was beating guys 2 weeks ago, like 250, 300 in the world. And so we just have a lot of really positives moving forward. Culturally, too, I think we're right on par where we've been in the last few years. We got guys that love tennis, like Ginger was saying, that just they want to play every day. We're lucky to have a sport like tennis where they can still train a lot and play. So we're pumped, and our schedule this spring is amazing with our indoor matches. We got TCU coming to town, and so we're just really excited to get back to work.
Chris, your team lost two guys to the first round of the draft, Foscue and Westberg, another, JT Ginn, to the Mets in the second round, and clearly all those guys were big contributors. But in terms of what's coming back, I don't know how you can't be excited about your pitching staff, because you've got a guy who's freshman All-American, and you've got a guy who's co-freshman of the year, Christian McLeod, that are going to be a part of that. So you've got some guys coming back that can help you kind of pick up where you left off, don't you?
We do. It's baseball's a little different right now because the rosters are kind of big with all the seniors coming back. And, with us, we picked up, we had 5 senior pitchers is what came back. And for us, that's the maturity and the experience of a Spencer Price or a Carlisle Kostler or Riley Self, some of those guys who've pitched a lot. And then on the flip side, like you said, we have Christian McLeod back, who's a projected possible first rounder. Eric Sarantola is that type of guy. I think this year really hurt Eric because Eric needed innings to pitch and grow because his stuff is so good. We lost Brandon Smith last fall. People don't remember Brandon Smith he would have been a weekend starter for us, and we lost him to Tommy John. He's about 100% back. And then just so many guys in that pitching staff. It is I think it's one of the top pitching staffs in the country and maybe in Mississippi State history, just because of not just the talent, but also the depth of it too, because we have so many guys. And we got hit in the draft hard with the position players because we lost Austin Hendrick, first rounder, and Blaze Jordan ended up getting money like a first rounder, but we got all our pitchers. So, man, we have some really good young pitchers coming into the program that in a lot of years, because of the draft and the way it changed, they probably wouldn't be here, but we have some special guys in there. So I got to be creative and find roles and find enough baseballs for guys to be happy on the pitching side, so we can keep the development up for those guys. And then offensively, we were fortunate, Rowdy Jordan, Josh Hatcher, and Tanner Allen are back. I mean, in a normal year, those guys wouldn't have been back in here. So we're excited about those guys, and should be a fun year. I think we'll start in the top 10, and we have a really competitive schedule. We open up out there in Dallas at that new Rangers ballpark. I was watching the game on TV the other night. It looked awesome. So hopefully we'll get out there and play in that ballpark. And I think we played Texas Tech, and TCU maybe. So it's like one of the better tournaments in the country that we'll get a chance to show out in.
I think a lot of you who are watching with us are probably aware, but the Major League draft this year was only 5 rounds as opposed to what it normally is. So as Chris mentioned, the rosters are going to be different in college baseball next season. And what I would ask you is, how much better is the game going to be across the board? Because you're going to have a lot of really good guys back on teams that might have taken the pro route had there been more rounds in the draft this year.
Well, I joke our staff because we sit around and we say, man, we got a chance to be really good, and I said, but so does everybody else, especially when you're talking about the SEC. Because rosters are big. I mean, they're going to be 15, 20% bigger than normal. So, and they're all special players, so there's not as many holes. I mean, I keep talking to our staff. I think in a lot of ways scoring will be down some because you never get to that bad reliever. I say bad reliever, but down the line reliever. You're going to have a guy come in the 5th or 6th inning who probably was the start of the year before. So you're going to be facing, deeper pitching staffs. And I think that side is where, our emphasis is, being a little bit better defensively, being able to manufacture runs a little bit more. I think is going to be a big key in the upcoming game in college baseball for the next couple of years.
How much better does the pitching get in the Tuesday and Wednesday game where you might have had Johnny Allstaff or something else going typically, and now you've got that depth? How do those games change because of this?
That's going to be one of your biggest areas. I mean, I think that'll be – we'll be throwing out guys who could be, guys who probably turned down $1 million in last month's draft. And, you got guys in there that are getting a chance to get out there and pitch. And usually those young guys, it's funny, Landon Sims, we ran him out there. I don't think he walked the guy all year, and we put him in his first outing. He walked the bases loaded, and he's a star. I mean, this kid's going to be a star. But those young kids need some time and development. And I joke them all the time. They want to play in this nice ballpark with all these fans, and then you get out there on the mound, and it's a little different. You have to learn. That's why Spencer Price is so huge for me. I trust him. and the crowds, the situation, they never bother him. So he's a guy that's pretty locked in.
Now, last point on this with the rosters, just because I think it's so fascinating, but from the coaching standpoint, how does it change the way that you have to manage now that you've got, maybe 20% more on that bench than you're used to dealing with in a given year?
Well, I think it's going to, we're the pitching side is what's going to be managed. As I think that's and we have more numbers on the pitching side right now because of the way the draft hit and everything. I don't think offense will change too much for us, except that I've never been a guy who liked to bunt a lot, but you may have to play for a run here or there a little more in this game because you're not going to knock through somebody's relievers. But the pitching side, I think, will be the biggest difference and have some definite roles and maybe maximize some guys like you see in pro ball right now. There's a lot more velocity for an inning than a guy running out there and giving you 3 innings out of the bullpen. They just keep throwing power arms at you, and I think that's what you'll see at this level coming up.
So as we head toward the conclusion of the program here, I ask this question first. Matt, do I understand right that most all of your student athletes are still abroad somewhere? You have anybody in Starkville right now?
We have a couple of guys that are Americans. We have a guy from Jackson and a guy from Memphis, and they're home. But everyone else is in Europe, and we're looking at how we can get them back if they want to come back, because we're still figuring out what kind of fall schedule we can have, and it may benefit them to be home and play tournaments. But we'll see. I mean, we're going to find out more in a week or so. But our guys that definitely told me they want to come back. One of them, Broska, said, "I'll come back even if we're just training." They just, I think, want to get out of the house, get away from their parents for a couple months. But they're ready to get back, and we're just going to find a way to, make it happen for them. We want what's best for them as safety as well as development. So we'll see.
Ginger, how many student athletes do you have in Starkville right now?
Well, we've been fortunate. Our international players that are current student athletes did not go home. So Clara Moyano from Spain stayed in the United States. So we're blessed to have her with no visa problems. Ella Grimwood, who has played for us for several years, is moving into a student assistant coach due to injury. So the only player is the freshman coming in from Thailand. And as I said before, she just got her visa. So we're really thrilled that the international ones are able to get in now. So,
Chris, what about you? Have you got anybody that's back on campus yet?
We do. We have a group of our incoming guys. We have a group of 12 that have been here for a couple of weeks in summer school. So we're getting them acclimated and lifting weights and throwing programs and things like that, getting them in. And we probably have about 4 or 5 other guys that are here around town rehabbing and here in the program. And then we'll have the rest of the group join in. We have guys playing summer baseball across the country too. So some of those guys have stayed in their communities and played, or their training areas are good enough to stay there. But I'd say we have a good probably 18 guys around Starkville right now. And we're just trying to get them back in shape and get them going. It was hard for our guys because baseball's a little hard to have a cage or to have a place to hit or take ground balls. And I had one of my guys in his summer league coach, the field is really rough. The balls are bounding. I was like, hey, not everybody has the dude. Our place is like carpet. So they've had an adjustment getting out there and playing on some of these different fields, but they're slowly trickling in. And this incoming group, we've been able to get some good work in with them.
Yeah, Brandon and those guys do a pretty good job over there.
I laughed. He told me, I said, hey, you sound really spoiled because, and I walk the infield before every game and we talk and say, I'd ask Westy and Foss, how's it playing? A little fast, a little slow, whatever. And but Brandon's crew, man, they are so good at what they do. It's a carpet out. You should see it right now. They did some work on it this summer, and I think they did ours in softball, and it looks great.
While I've got you, Chris, I got one other I had written down, and I want to make sure I get it in before we leave. There was a tweet. You may have actually sent this out not too long ago. You and Ron Polk standing together and visiting a little bit. What's it like talking baseball with one of the all-time legends?
It's pretty good. We live about 6 houses from each other. And really he just gives me a hard time all the time. So that's usually what happens in our conversations. And he had come by that day. We social distance, we sat outside, but he coaches in the Cape Cod League, and he's allowed to have 4 of our players every summer, and he takes care of them, and our fans gravitate there. And I know Everett, our bus driver, will go to the Cape and hang out with them. And it's just a neat thing. But, he wants the 4 really good ones, which I don't blame him. So I laugh when I took the job. I had a Cape team call me about 2 weeks in and said, "Hey, Coach, I got Tanner Allen, Jordan Westberg, and Rowdy Jordan. We want to send their contracts." I said, "We haven't sent a contract for, we haven't made an agreement with anybody." And they said, "Well, Coach Polk said he asked them last fall and they're coming." And I said, "All right, send the contracts over, because, I ain't going to argue with Coach Polk," even though he didn't take Justin Foscue. So I give him a hard time, like, how do you not take a first rounder? But at the time, Justin wasn't the first rounder. So, but it's pretty cool living out there by him. Our athletic department, our community is so excited he's coming back. He's going to help Coach Leach over there in football, though, he tells me. So he's over there. Him and Coach Leach have got to be good friends.
If you guys are on social media, you would have seen the other day, too, from Coach Leach's account that Coach Polk took him a new copy of the baseball playbook and said that he didn't think the baseball playbook was probably nearly the size of Coach Leach's football playbook. So, he's already having an impact, already making the rounds, and, it's great to have him here. Guys, I appreciate the time today. Thank all of you for carving out a little bit in the schedule for us and visiting with our fans. We always love talking, sports with all of our Mississippi State fans. Thank you for joining us for our 4th installment of the Virtual Road Dogs Tour. Now, we've got one more episode coming your way. John Cohen and I are going to sit down and have a discussion about all things Mississippi State athletics. And keep your eyes on hailstate.com. Also on the Hail State Twitter account, you'll see information about when that is coming up, because obviously we want to be able to give you as much accurate and timely information as we can when we get to that episode. So make sure you're looking for that, and you'll see the time and the date, and we'll look forward to you visiting with us again then. Again, thanks to our coaches, Ginger Brown Lim, Chris Lamonis, Matt Roberts, for spending some time. Thanks to all of you as well. We look forward to seeing you in person real soon. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time for another episode of our Virtual Road Dogs Tour.